It's a nice
Cool.
home gym that you got there.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see my little barbell there. That's my daughter's. It's not really mine. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's good now. Yeah, I've only really kind of properly committed to starting using it recently. I kept finding excuses. Um,
Yeah. Was
so
that
now,
during COVID and stuff, and then everything opened up?
yeah, like I didn't have this much stuff, so I have a rower now, like behind me that side, and
Yeah.
I got a bike and a few weights and stuff, and I kind of had we had a second child, so I was like, oh, we'll definitely train at home now, and then like
Oh,
didn't.
congratulations, though.
Thank you. Yeah, so now I'm kind of like, right, I'm just going to mostly train at home because I feel too guilty if I go to the gym, so it's just easier to do it this
Yeah.
way. Um,
You were a teacher, right?
I am, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. You think I'd be sick of kids, but here we are. I can actually hear him. I can hear him crying. My wife's trying to sleep train him, so she's trying to get him to go to sleep himself.
Yeah,
Um, he's just fucking roaring. I can hear him. I can hear him
yeah.
through my headphones. Like, um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
this is
hopefully
gonna.
I will, yeah, take over pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, it'll be fine. Thanks for coming back on. It's great
Hmm.
to chat to you. You a couple of things. So the freedom I get now with we've spoken before is I've covered all the stuff that if anyone doesn't know anything about you, they can go and listen to the first episode. So now we get to talk about like kind of different stuff, which is it's always a bit liberating when it's always interesting to find out how someone got into CrossFit and stuff, but it's nice when you don't have to recover it, which is great.
Yeah.
Um, you like you're a big fan of food, are you?
I am, yes, I mean, I'm a big fan of good food, obviously. I
Yeah.
don't know why people wouldn't be. Um,
You like
is
you
there
eat a lot of
another
steak,
question
do
to
you?
that?
And beef and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So that's funny that we are starting to talk about that because last week I found out that I hadn't been eating red meat for for about a week.
Okay.
Not that not that I was recovering or anything like badly, but I just felt like there was something missing, and I just started thinking about it, and then found out that I haven't been eating meat, so I went and bought a lot of meat, and probably ate, I want to say like half a kilo that day, or maybe 450 grams, 500 grams, something like that.
Yeah.
And I could just feel like coming back in like 4 to 6 hours later. I was just like, I ate it ate it at noon, and then I ate it at dinner as well, and the day after, and just felt so much better. So it was a good reminder that, you gotta eat your meats as well, man.
And is that like is that iron, do you think? Is that what the was missing maybe?
Yeah, maybe that could have been B12 iron,
Yeah.
pretty much. But I don't take, for an example, iron or B12 capsules,
Yeah.
so that might be missing for sure.
Yeah.
Because
Um
obviously, yeah, there's just a lot of training, and we just want to get food quick, and chicken and rice or something like that is usually quicker.
and then so when you finish say when you're in your off season or whatever and you can be, you know, you strike me as someone who's quite regimented like all the time, but I'm assuming there's like a week or two where you're like, okay, let's go to this restaurant that we haven't been able to go to like during the season because now I can, eat richer food or whatever. So after the games or like before, say, January or around Christmas time and that, do you allow yourself to just go and eat things that you maybe restrict yourself from the rest of the year?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I restrict myself from my favorite foods like for the rest of the year, but yes, definitely after competition, during Christmases, like Easter's, any kind of breaks from, a lot of training, I just try to allow myself to just get the things that I really enjoy eating. Um, but I want to have a good and healthy relationship to food, and I think that's very
Yeah.
important. And that's the one reason why maybe on Saturdays we have like something that's a little bit more chilled. But I like healthy food anyways. I mean, steaks are my favorite thing to
Yeah,
have. But then what I'm trying to say is that I might have something like, ice cream or,
yeah, yeah,
whatever I feel like eating on that particular Saturday. But then on all of the other days, I would probably deny myself
yeah.
those kind of treats.
Yeah, my sister-in-law is a dietitian, and if she hears us
Mhm.
calling certain foods treats to like my daughter or whatever, you can always hear her, like, she's quiet about it, but you can hear her go, "Oh, you're not supposed to say that. Like, you're not supposed to label it a treat." And I was like
Right.
talking to her the other day, and I was like, "Oh, what do you say?" Because I've had those, especially around Easter, like there's fucking chocolate everywhere. And
Yeah.
like my daughter is definitely my daughter, because if she has a piece of chocolate for like 3 weeks, she's like, is there any more of that chocolate knocking around? Is
Yeah.
there, can I finish it off? And I was saying to her, like, I was trying not to say the word treat, and I was like, no, that's sometimes food. I was like, how do I explain to a 2 year old that,
Yeah.
like, you don't just have that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but you also don't want her to be like to have a bad relationship with food. Yeah, so I definitely understand what you're saying there about trying to keep things, I suppose, steady rather than like a big binge every so often or whatever. Um,
Mm.
do you cook as well?
Yeah. Yeah. So usually like well now there's a little bit of change because now I train a lot in Reykjavik. So that means that, I'm not cooking the lunch. But I come home and I always cook dinner and I always cook my um, third meal of the day, which is after the second session. So around like 4 and 5, something like that. I would eat a
Yeah.
big meal and then I would also eat dinner. So yes, I try to cook a lot because I just also feel like it's just a lot cleaner. You know exactly what you are cooking, right? Like you don't know if you order something like what did they use and all kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
and then it might just like hit your stomach in a bad way, and such an unnecessary feeling to have.
And do you try to replicate, like, do you put like, like, love into your food, or are you just like chicken, rice, just fucking cook it, and then
Oh,
eat it and move on to the next thing?
yeah, it depends a little like how good the appetite is. If it's
Yeah.
very good, I can just eat like almost plain chicken and rice, but I try to spice it up a little bit and like grill it and have it a little juicy and maybe serve it with like a little bit of like barbecue sauce or something like that. But nothing that will sit in you too much because like usually when I eat the chicken and rice, it's after the first session and before the second session. So. Mm, I I hate when I make terrible food, and that happens way too often.
um, so when we spoke the first time,
Hmm.
I remember we talked about how you hadn't done a lot of interviews and you hadn't. I kind of got the impression from talking to you that I can't remember the exact thing you said, but you said something along the lines of, like, feeling like maybe people didn't really give a shit about what you had to say, so why say it?
Hmm.
Or, like that. You kind of felt uncomfortable maybe with a microphone or a
Hmm.
camera point at you or whatever. And since then, you've done more stuff than you had previously, I think. Are you getting more comfortable with it now? Or are you getting more kind of used to it?
Getting more comfortable with it for sure, but I'm also and have been like me and Snorri just trying to like push me into having conversations with getting on podcasts and interviews and stuff like that. Um, because it is rather easy. It's just gonna speak from your heart basically and leave nothing out. And I feel like I've gotten nice attention because I'm telling things that people didn't know about me, and they maybe thought that I wasn't that curious, but then I am a little curious maybe, and I have a bunch of things to talk about. So I feel like it's been definitely a positive change, and I've been on many podcasts since I was with you,
Yeah.
and yeah, just try to do better, man. That's just it. Try to be more in the media.
Yeah. Um, you're season last year. So congratulations on your games finish. You finished fourth. Um,
Hmm.
and I was looking there, see if you were 24 points off third, and it was like, do you know, it was kind of ebbing and flowing a lot over the weekend, where it was like it was
Hmm.
tight, and then you were eight ahead of fifth. So I suppose the flip side of, like, it's easy to say like, oh, you just missed out on third, but like you did well to finish ahead of fifth as well, considering how
Yeah.
tight it was.
Hmm.
Are you happy with how the year went? Are you happy with how everything went to Madison?
When did we speak last time? When was it?
Like the start of the summer last year before the games.
Right. Yeah. 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 So last season was strange, man. It was so basically I pulled my back in the open, kept like mini pulling my back, through quarterfinals, um, which meant that I wasn't able to squat throughout the whole season. So for 6 to 8 months, something like that. So basically from February when the Open was and up until the games, I didn't do a single squat session that actually felt good, if you know what I mean. So and that's terrible. Like it was crazy season. It was like high stress throughout every single competition, and being able to pull off a fourth is like that's probably one of my biggest achievements because I remember talking to Yami, my coach, like maybe a week or 10 days out of the games, and we both agreed that, we were just gonna go in there and take one event at a time, but being fully ready for me to maybe have to pull out of the competition because of um, just that back injury that led into the hip becoming like inflamed, and I was feeling like um, on the side of my thigh and stuff like that. So it didn't go away. I wasn't able to give it the time it needed, but by pulling off fourth, that was a great success. But it always sits in me that last event of the games in last year because I felt the overhead lunge, or like the last step, and I had to go back, and that's the reason
Mm.
why Fikowski was able to sneak in there. So I was on my way for third, well on my way, but it was probably good um, that I didn't finish on the podium because I felt so bad. Like I never want to experience this kind of season again. I just want to be healthy, and it's not even like it's almost not worth it to just go through the whole thing and being injured, if you know what I mean.
Was there ever a time, say pre games, of like calling it and saying, no, I just need to not compete this year?
It got quite bad actually. When we had the heavy cleans and run that was in the Coliseum. So because the cleans were so heavy, like the obviously I hadn't been squatting and that therefore I hadn't been cleaning as well. So I
Yeah.
hadn't cleaned, that 157 bar, which was like a 350, I think the last bar was. I hadn't do that in like a year or like 8 months or something. Um, so getting in there, I was super nervous, and it left me a little sore on the side of my hip, which I wasn't able to like get down like in one day or like few hours before the next one. But luckily, it was like pretty late in the competition. I want to say it was like Saturday, like midday or something. So I basically just had to push through the Sunday, um, and that was like that was fine. It was okay. But I was also happy with just hitting the weight. But yeah, it came close. It came close.
And what about, say, like during quarterfinals where you kind of like, yeah, no, I'll be fine? Like, is it a type of thing where you think, oh, I've loads of time, so hopefully things will right themselves? And then you mentioned that you spoke to your coach, a couple of weeks out. Like, is that conversation, is he half expecting you to say that you don't want to do it? Are you half expecting him to say maybe you shouldn't do it?
I think it kind of depends on the injury. This was something that we both understood that it just mostly needed time. It was not that I was making it worse or anything, but I was just dealing with the aftermath of having to, um, you know, never given it enough time, and I was just pushing it a little bit too much throughout the season. But it wasn't really getting any worse. I was not making anything
Mm,
worse. It was just not getting better. So, and we fully understand that. But if at any point this would, you know, get worse or get, so painful that I wouldn't be able to perform, we would definitely just, come out of the competition, let it rest, get ready for
mm,
the next season. Apparently, we just didn't have to do that. But we talk a lot, and we were obviously living together in the US at this point because we go out there so early before the games. So he knew exactly like where I was standing, and yeah, we just made this decision of taking one event at a time. We didn't know all the events, didn't know how it was going to play out, so just rolled the dice pretty much.
mm. How long has he been your coach for? Like always?
So that's the thing. Yami has been my coach since always. Like we were this group in CrossFit Reykjavik in 2012, where we met up at 7:30 at night. We did a double session almost every day. And that was the training plan, like the advanced competitor plan, which is two
Yeah.
sessions a day. We were obviously just kids and in school, and like we didn't have time during the day. So we just met up in the evenings and did the training plan. And that was kind of like RX class, if you know what I mean. So like people that wanted a
Mm,
little bit more, possibly thinking about competing and stuff. And the reason why for this is obviously because Annie was already working with him and she had access to the program.
mm. Um, I heard Khan talking about him on Savan's podcast, and
Yeah,
I heard Khan talk about you as well. So he told a funny story about how they were doing like some cardio workout or something, some intervals thing, and he was like, you know, he was saying like that you're like so robotic that there's just nothing. There's no like you never give anything away like facially, and he
yeah,
is quite expressive. But he was saying that like
yeah,
he just had a moment of relief where every so often in the workout you just like shout or like make a noise, but then immediately go back to like robotic. And he was just
yeah.
like, I think he found that comforting that he was like, oh, cool, okay, it's not. He is actually suffering somewhere. He's just really good at hiding it. Is that something that you've learned? Is that like learned behavior to not give anything away, or is that just the way you are naturally?
It's not to hide anything away. It's mostly for me to just stay composed. When things feel like shit, you can make them so much worse by making no noise, like facial expressions. Try to, you know what I mean? Like
Mm,
the person that just like, well, everyone's going through the same things, but there's this one person, and it almost looks like she's trying to make you feel like she's working harder than you, but she really isn't. I
yeah.
just don't want to be that person. But it's also just nice to like when you're digging very deep, it is so much better to think about just being composed in relations to like, or it's just so much better than making the facial expressions like shouting, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? So like I try as best as I can just to like stay focused on what I'm doing, and that's usually much better. Like performance is better. Um,
Mm,
and Khan was saying this probably because like we would show up together in the beginning. I would only show up for the worst workouts, for the workouts that we would have to push each other. But that was not me trying to like play him or anything. It was just like I was just doing my thing, and yes, he is also very very good at suffering. Very good,
yeah,
like one of the best I have ever seen.
he's very he can go dark like for a long time as well. Um,
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it's crazy with it is very crazy. Like he can go very dark, and he's very good in the machines. Like if there's a machine workout, he'll beat me. Like there's just he's just he just has more power than I do, and that's great for me. That's actually have someone here that's pushing me this far and just beating me still. You know that, I don't like it, but I just know it's gonna make me much better.
Yeah. He also spoke about um your coach, who's now his coach.
Hmm. Hmm.
And he was saying that like historically he's always had I guess like a remote coach or like a distant coach or whatever, and
Hmm.
he just could not uh just even put into words the impact that Yami has had on him and the team and the group of athletes, and he just he couldn't say enough how the impact that he's had on all of you. Um, but I suppose it's different. I suppose maybe it's unusual for you because you're like, oh, that's just like we've been doing that for 10 years. Like that's the way it's always been. Whereas
Hmm.
when someone with fresh eyes comes in and maybe points out some stuff that's like, that's pretty impressive, or
Yeah.
that's really, like maybe it brings a fresh perspective to it. Um, what is it about Yami, do you think, that separates him from other coaches?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. I've always thought about Yami as like the best of them all. Like no matter what people say, like I know there are going to be people that work with some other coaches and they say it, but it's like look at us, like look at the athletes that he's had, and look at the consistency of the performances throughout the years. Um, okay, I mean, mostly it's been yes, it's mostly just been he's not trying to hunt athletes. He's not trying to get elite athletes or paying them to come and work on the training plan. I mean, we have been building relationship for such a long time. Like we've been building relationships since me 2012 and Annie was probably like 2009 or something. The training plan, the plan itself, is by far the most personalized program you can get without it being like hands-on coaching, if you know what I mean. That's just 100% true. Because the effort that he puts in making the program it's unbelievable. Like, he'll be with us on double session a day. Between the sessions, he will go and work, program, and do whatever he needs to do. And then when we are done, he needs to go home and program more. So he's constantly re-educating himself, trying to stay on top. He's constantly bringing new ideas, new like warm-up drills, like neurological like brain drills, eye drills, whatever it is. Like we have tested it all. And it's funny when people there's this trend, there might be a trend that comes up, oh, everybody's doing this. But I can assure you, we probably did this like 4 years ago and have been doing it for 4 years if it works. There are so many things that he has brought in. And I mean, not all of them work, and I'll do some of them if they work for my like warm-ups or for my sessions or thinking or whatever it is. But he has just this great, it is unbelievable how the understanding that he actually has of training and how to train, how to get the most of it. And there's not a single session in 10 years that I've thought to myself, why am I doing this? There's not a single like one session that I've thought to myself, why am I doing this? I don't need to be doing this.
Yeah.
There's everything is with intentions, and it's just like, dude, I cannot even put it into words. That's just how it is. And yes, we have now a team. We have Lauren, we have Tola, we have Khan. Like I said before, I haven't been on many of the podcasts like in the past years, and I probably just haven't had the vocabulary, like the English vocabulary to express like how good he actually is. But now we got Khan, Australian. I mean, not many people understand him, but
Yeah, I was gonna
he
say
knows
you
how
probably
to
don't want to be
talk.
picking up your vocabulary off him, to be honest.
No, 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 no. I'm picking it up from Tola and Lauren for sure.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's
You
incredible. He's yes, like dude, you would just have to be with us for like 2 or 3 training sessions, and you would be like, damn, this guy's good.
and like so like when we spoke the last time, and even just looking at your Instagram, a lot of your stuff prior to this year has been on your own, and like you obviously did some sessions in Reykjavik, and you mentioned there that in 2012 or whatever you did, like you predominantly trained there. But I suppose more recently you were kind of seemed like you were anyway, by and large, training on your own.
Hmm.
With Yami as your coach, obviously. But this year you seem to be in Reykjavik more than previous years. Is that accurate, or am I misinterpreting it?
No, that's completely true. And the main reason for it is that this is the first season that the army is actually located in Iceland.
Yeah.
We have been doing, and we do like every now and then, week here and week there, where he might be in Iceland, or we go, London, or we do the training camp for the games and stuff. Those have usually been the times when we are together. But now we're just together on a daily basis. He has, I think he's trying to get the social security number to be able to just stay here permanently in Iceland. So that's
Mm.
the reason why I am now driving from where I live to CrossFit Reykjavik, where Annie and the team is training and Katrin, and that's about 30 minutes away.
And like, what's the difference there? Because obviously, like you mentioned that you have, say, Khan is really good on the machine, so that you get a push there. Toll is like fucking ridiculous with a barbell, so you're going to get a push there.
Yeah.
Like, is that the difference, that you constantly, like, you can, you've got like experts in different fields that can push you in different ways and push you in different workouts? Is that like, do you feel like that's giving you a boost?
Oh yes, that's definitely the one of the main reasons why I'm doing it this Yami is here, number one. Number two, we have Khan, which pushes me in other areas than Tola does. And then the whole team, basically just a great camaraderie between the people, and then Katrin is there as well. So me and Katrin might be doing a little different stuff from the team, but we every now and then have like individual workouts where everyone just goes at the same time, and it's just a group of very like-minded people, and
Mm.
we just really like throwing down. But with that being said, I really like the focus of being alone. But it's also just much easier to push yourself when you have athletes like this, like next to you. But I like to still do a lot of the training that I do alone, and but now we're just prepping for competition, and just it just makes much more sense to be getting pushed each day and almost every session.
And
So I will
was there
not
any,
stop to train alone.
yeah, was there any kind of nervousness or like apprehension? Obviously, Yami being there is a big boost. And you've
Hmm.
worked with him for so long, so you trust him, and like
Hmm.
he has your best interests at heart. But then, obviously, if there's a team, a lot of his attention is going to be on the team as well. So then, was there any kind of nervousness on your part of like, is it good? Is it a good idea to change the way I've been doing things when it's worked so well for so long? Is this like, could this lead to a mistake, or like, was there any kind of nervousness about that?
I mean, that's a good question. Like, I think that, and I understand that if anyone would maybe not like that, but no, he is very good at keeping like our relationship apart from someone else's relationship, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, like, I would still come home, like, for an example, today, and I could still just like text him, get the feedback from him. We would talk about things. We would meet up in the morning. He would do whatever I asked him to do, and he keeps that very much in place. And I think he really knows that yes, he's working with more people now, so it needs to be maybe a little bit more structured. But on the
Mm.
other hand, this is also the first time that we have him daily. So it's not like I've been having it all to myself or anything like that.
Mm.
So no, I didn't really think about it too much. I wasn't afraid of it. I just know what kind of person he is, and he will just make things happen. That's the thing. Like for people, no problem. He'll just work harder to not make us feel like we're being left out. So
Does it ever
like
bother you that he
what?
coaches other elite male, like your direct competitors? Because obviously, when he coaches the team, that's like,
Hmm.
it's obviously. uh, what would you call it? It's bandwidth from him or it's energy expenditure from him, but it's a different competition. Or if he coaches Annie or Catherine or whoever, it's a different competition. It's a different field, or it's a different. They're not competitors of yours. But does it ever, or has it ever bothered you that like, oh, hang on, I'm going to be competing directly against that other guy, and he's coaching him too?
Mm, no, I wouldn't say so. I mean, my job is to show up and do my absolute best. We have been working for such a long time that I just know that he's going to be doing things like he has been doing them for the last 10 years. But my responsibility is also to deliver him some performances. I know he's programming for
Yeah,
me every single day, every single session of the year. I trust him with it, and what I gotta give back is 100% effort. And that there's definitely a mutual respect. He knows that he can just trust me. And if I do everything right, which I try to do, and I don't need to have him holding my hand like every single session, that's not how
yeah,
it is. But I will deliver him results, and I really want to deliver him results. I'm not just doing this for myself. I want to see him succeed just as much as I want to succeed, because we're just working
yeah,
together in this. So no, it is. But the thing is, like, I'm just me, and I don't feel like threatened or anything because I feel just pretty good about my
your fitness.
conditioning at this point, like my
Yeah,
fitness. Like I just know that there's no one that he's training that is going to do much better than I will do. Do you know what I mean? Like he's going
yeah,
to have me, or he's going to have to want me still in there, definitely.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
now also talking about the girls because yeah, we have Eddie there and Catherine there, and Lauren now.
yeah. Um, so you're headed for Lowlands,
Hmm.
and so are the team. So that worked out pretty well. That you're
Yeah,
all
yeah.
peaking at or having a mini peak or whatever. Um,
Hmm.
are you excited about that? Are you was that did you care where you went beforehand? Did you have a preference, or have you looked at who's there, or does that even enter your realm of focus at all?
Yeah, so I feel pretty good. Like I've felt great through the Open, through quarterfinals. Obviously, won the quarterfinals. Conditioning wise, like strength numbers, everything is in a good place. So I kind of wanted Lawrence to be the competition that I go to, just because I don't think I need like I don't feel like I need a lot more time to just get ready or
Mm,
whatever. I'm just urging to go back to the competition floor. I've never been to a competition in Amsterdam. I feel like Amsterdam is much smaller than London is. I
mm,
don't know how many millions live in London or not, and I don't know how many people live in Amsterdam, but that's probably a lot less. It's small, like you can get around pretty easily. And I don't know how many times I've had a connection flight from Amsterdam, but I've never actually been out of the airport.
yeah, same. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
I'm just very excited, and it was great that the team is coming to Amsterdam as well to just have have the homies there, and yeah, I think it's going to be an awesome time.
um, so you mentioned that you won quarterfinals. Is like, well, congrats first of all. But is that like, does that give you a boost, or is it something that like you kind of acknowledge and then it immediately becomes irrelevant because the next stage is so different?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely gives boost. It's mostly for me that things are heading in the right direction. Like let's say if I finished 40th,
Yeah.
that would be out of character for me if I would finish 40th in an online qualifier. I usually do pretty well in the qualifiers.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I mean it's good boost. It's a nice verification that we are doing everything that we can to stand on top of the podium this summer.
Yeah. Is there like there's a thin line I think between kind of confidence and arrogance, like where you can be confident that you're doing the right things, and you can be confident that, you know, there's 5 spots going in lowlands, and you could look at the
Mhm.
leaderboard and think, yeah, you know, unless I really fuck up, like I should be in one of those 5 spots. If everything goes to plan, I should be
Mhm.
in first, and you know, if everything goes slightly off plan, I should still manage fifth. But then
Mhm.
the arrogance, I suppose, creeps in when you look beyond semifinals and start thinking, oh, what games prep am I going to do now this year? Like, how do you manage your, because obviously you don't want to be browbeaten by the time you get to lowlands, but you also don't want to be like strutting onto the floor as if it's, you know, a given that you're going to qualify. Like, how do you manage your own expectations of it?
Yeah. At this point, there's no need to be thinking about how the games are going to feel or how the preparation for the games is going to feel, because it isn't time for that preparation yet. The preparation and the focus is all on semifinals.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do. I try to just think one competition at a time. Just like in 2019 when they had the cuts. Cuts were like, okay, let's make it through first cut. And then it was, let's make it to the second, and
Mm.
then the third, and then the fourth. You know what I mean? So like, I never took anything for granted, and I don't want to take anything for granted. I am going to show up at semifinals 100% ready and in top great shape. And then after that competition, it's time for games prep. Um, I don't think that this training that I'm doing now is not gonna it's not gonna ruin anything for games. There's nothing that I should be doing now that is like games related. Everything is put into semifinals, and I would never underestimate anyone that I'm going to compete against. But
Mm.
I just feel that I can only think about myself, and I'm trying to be as ready as I possibly can, and without thinking about what other people are doing. I don't really care much about it. So yeah, I just try to think about me, and I think we are very good at just keeping it that way. Me and the team, Yami.
Mm. Um, so you've done 11 opens. This year was your 11th open, which is like an
Yeah.
impressive run. And if you go if you qualify, or assuming you qualify, which I hope you do, it'll be your ninth your ninth run at the games,
Games.
which like is fucking crazy when you think about it. Um is it does it ever get tiring? Like do you find yourself, obviously, say year one at the games, you finish,
Hmm.
and I'm assuming you're having to be held back from starting too soon. You know, like you've got that eagerness of like, oh, I want that again. And then like, does that ever wane? Like, does it ever get slower to be, do you have to kind of pick yourself up a little bit more as the years go on of like, okay, like, do I want to do this again? And what, like, because now
Hmm.
you know what it takes. You know what it's taken every year, and you know that the
Hmm.
next time it's going to take more than it took the previous time, because
Hmm.
you're going to be a year older. You're going to, like, your numbers are going to be so high
Hmm.
that to surpass your own previous performances, which, I mean, every athlete has to do, because there's younger, stronger, newer people coming up all the time that you have to keep pushing. Like, do you ever find, say, like, as the longer you're in the sport, that you're kind of like, oh god, like, I'm gonna have to go through all this again?
Yeah, and I totally understand why people would think that way. It's very overwhelming to think about the whole thing as one. But I'm so fast at forgetting things. Like I'm so quick at forgetting like how painful it all was and how bad the training has been and like the suffer that we have to go through and everything. Just it kind of just I don't care about it because usually after the games or after a competition where you qualify, like I feel great after you know let's say like I was saying before, I try to take one competition at a time and there's the Open, and I feel great after finishing the Open. Like let's say it was a good result for me, and then that's just a win. And then if that's a win, I want to do another win, which is the
Yeah.
quarterfinals, and then quarterfinals go great, and I want to go. Oh man, it's just happening again and again and again. And just looks good. And yeah, so it's basically just one competition at a time. But regarding, being at home right after the games, and you've been doing this for like 7, 8, 9 years, and there's this week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever people do of pretty much resting or just like get your shit together before you start training again. No, there really hasn't been anything that I feel like I need to pick myself up or anything. I just feel like I'm
Mm.
left from the games with, first of all, not reaching the goal, which is winning the games, and second of all, there are always weaknesses that needs to be fixed in order for you to do better the next year. And then the
Yeah.
programming might be a slightly different, and then you get something new that you need to work on. Do you know what I mean? So it's a constant
Yeah.
battle of trying to work on weaknesses, get everything to the next level. But that's also the interest that I get from Miami. Like he will like call me like, let's say, 10 days after the games, and we would go through like every single event and like what needs to be better, what is fine, what can be better, things like that. So there's always just new things to work on. But if I wouldn't have anyone by my side that's just as interested as I am in trying to evolve myself to be, the best in the world, then it would probably be, yes, pretty hard to motivate yourself to like start again, because like you would be, where do I start? You know what I
Yeah. Yeah.
mean? But we come up with a plan and we just start slowly, and we gradually build in. So it's never really a mental challenge. I really like working out. I am very active. No one likes me when I'm not training. Not a single person, at least in my family. So I just don't see myself quitting or stopping this at all. It's
Yeah.
I've never been as strong. I've never been as mentally strong. There's not much that I feel that's gonna show up that I will break at, and the things are just progressing in the right direction. But I've always told myself this, like, as soon as things start to get boring, as soon as I'm doing everything that I can, but I'm still not improving, and I'm not enjoying this anymore, then it's time to step away. But the time hasn't come, and I don't think it will come for the next years.
Yeah, I mean, if it hasn't come in 11 years, it's unlikely something's going to change big time in the next couple of
Yeah.
years. Um, did Annie tell you about her plans to go team, or did she? Because like you'd be an obvious person to ask if you wanted a team
Yeah.
member, but then obviously I assume there was an understanding of like there's probably no point asking if he finished fourth. He's obviously aiming to go again.
Yeah. So for the I want to say maybe from 1920, something like that. There have been those discussions. I have asked her, and she has always said to me that, I'm just gonna take it easy and think about it when I get home. But also, almost all of the years that I asked, I've kind of felt that, yeah, yeah, she's coming back. But it was just after the 2021 games that it was a little different answer. So the answer
Hmm.
was a little more direct into, I'm done. Like, I've proven everything that I need to prove to myself. I've done it all. I won it twice. I've had a baby. I've come back. I've finished on the podium. There's not much else you can actually do. And this was a nice year to maybe say goodbye to the individual competition. And I kind of felt it after the games that this was the time. Um,
Hmm.
Not that she would say it directly to me, but I just like sensed something about it. And then, a couple of months, 3, 4 months later, um, yeah, I heard the news, or I asked her about it, that she was trying to get the team together.
Did she ask you to do the team? No.
She would have asked, but she knew exactly that what the
Yeah.
answer would
She
be.
she probably she probably dropped a subtle hint and got a like no, and then just moved on to the
Yeah,
next. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 that's true. Like, she was like, "Well, there is a spot," but and I was like, "Nah, no, no, no."
Yeah, you're like best of luck filling it. It's
Yeah,
like it's not
but
me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, she
Um,
knows. She knows.
Is that? Do you think you ever would do that when say when you're training with them and watching the kind of, I suppose, that shared suffering and the shared success? Is that something that would ever interest you, or do you think you rather just ride solo?
No, I think yeah. Yeah, if you asked me like 6 months ago, I would say no. There's no way I'll go team. But after I've seen how they train, and
Mm,
it's a little different atmosphere, and it's not relaxed. I'm not saying it's relaxed, but you're sharing a little bit of the burden with the whole team of anxiety or like the stress of competition coming up and stuff like that, and you really need to work together. And I like that aspect of the team format. But I've also done the invitationals. But invitationals, you had what, maybe one or two team trainings, and then you would have to do the competition, and that was so much fun. Like it was,
yeah,
at least for me, I did not feel stressed at all. I enjoyed being on the floor maybe a little bit more because like you were sharing a barbell with a guy, or you were, doing all the synchro stuff. It's just a little different. So I think, yeah, I can see that in the future.
yeah. Um, you've obviously got like, sponsors and people that you have to please, and the boxes you have to tick for brands
Hmm.
that are supporting you and helping make possible, I suppose, your professionalism that you're maintaining in the sport and stuff. Like, is it ever difficult to balance that? Is it ever difficult to be like, not to let those kind of responsibilities like overshadow your actual job that you have to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly well, I have a great help from Snorri, my agent. Like if I wouldn't have an agent, if I wouldn't have him by my side, I would not have a single sponsor. That's just the nature of it. Because I'm well, like one, I'm not the best at social media. I'm not the best at Instagram, but I every now and then when I post something that people really like, I'm like, wow, well, okay, this is actually pretty fun. And then the day after, I kind of forget about it. So do you know what I mean? So it is hard to balance,
Yeah.
you know, sponsored content and content that comes from yourself. But it's great to have people by your side that make sure that you actually do it. And, we booked the photographer. We have great guy here in Iceland that does that for me, and just a great relationship. He's one of my friends, and yeah, we are a pretty good team at managing those things. They can always be a little better, but that's also because the only thing that I focus on is the training, and training goes before everything, and it has always been that way. But I've also always told me that I'm never going to let anything come in front. And that can be harsh, man. Like that can be, like I don't know if I talked about this, but that means like skipping meeting friends, skipping parties, skipping, going to the movies because you get home too late and you need to be asleep before 11, and you mostly like from the open and onwards, it's like this, and it's throughout the whole year, it's the whole summer, it's the games, and then you come home and then you might enjoy friends, family for 3 weeks, and then you are pretty much back to it. Because there's always that back in the back of your mind that, this is not beneficial for training, then why would you do it?
It's probably like twice as shit in Iceland, because when you're ready to start, like when you're going heading into your season, it's getting dark, and it's
Yeah.
dark like loads. And then when the sun is starting to come out and it's starting to get nice, you're like, that's cool, guys. I actually can't do anything anymore, so I'll just see you guys when it gets dark again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I mean
definitely
that's
has
true.
has an
It's
element.
that's very true. Yeah, I can imagine it being a little easier somewhere else. Um, and I can also imagine it being like it's very tempting for people, especially in Iceland, to go for like 2 or 3 weeks during the winter somewhere else, just to like get a little bit of sun and nice weather. But I could also be doing that and feeling good. Uh, in the training camps that I do outside of Iceland. But then that would
Mm,
probably mean that I would just feel not as good when you are actually Iceland, which is, most of the time. So I would
mm.
just rather not go and not knowing that, yes, it can be better,
Ignorance is
if
bliss. I
that
think
makes sense.
that's the phrase you're looking for. Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
uh, what would success look like for this year then? If in mid August you reflect on 2022, what are the markers that you have in your head of, okay, yes, that was a success, or no, that wasn't a success? Like, what's the line?
The line for me has become, well, in 19, the line became in finishing on the podium again because people would talk about it being just a one-time thing or once in a lifetime thing, whatever people said back then. But since 2019, it has been to raise the bar and get to the top of it, get to the top of the podium. I've been to the press conference right after finishing on the podium, and it just does not feel the same
Mm,
as maybe winning. So like Matt Fraser obviously was in the middle. I was to his left, and then on two occasions it was either wasn't it who finished second? Was it Noah?
yeah.
Yeah, Noah. And then in 15 it was yeah, Fraser was second in 15 and Matt was first. So it's like yeah, I know the procedures, what happens after you win. And I just want to be in the middle and get all the questions and answer them and just walk away and feel great about, finally finishing what you actually started 10 years ago.
Um, well, we'll finish with a quick fire. Um, one of the questions in the quick fire is going to
Yeah?
appear quite poignant after that last point. Um, so dumbbell or barbell?
Barbell.
Bar or ring muscle up?
That's a tricky one. I would have to say ring because I'm pretty good on the rings.
Yeah. Bike or run?
I would love it to be run.
Row or ski?
Row. Just this season. I used to love the ski, but I like the row better now.
Win the games and not be allowed to compete again, or like podium three more times but never win.
Win the games and not compete again.
I'm actually so proud of myself for putting that question in, given that that's what came up at the end. That's almost like I
Yeah.
saw what was coming. Can or
Yeah.
Tola? I'm only joking. I won't actually make you
Oh
answer that one.
man. Oof.
That
I
wouldn't be
hope they
fair.
uh I would want to live with both of them downtown Reykjavik, where they live together. The three of us, the crew.
Yeah. The thing about Can, I feel like Can would just corrupt the best of us. Like I feel like you've had 10 years or 11 years or whatever of this, like, really like regiment or whatever, and then I feel like if you there's a line with Can where if you spend too much time on him, the wheels might just come off.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And that's probably a good thing that I don't live in the same town even. So we're not seeing each other much outside of training. But I'll
Yeah,
make sure to see him and Tola and we go downtown on Sunday after semifinals.
that's cool. um well, listen, it's been great getting to chat to you again. It's always a privilege to get to talk to you. I'm excited to see what you do in Lowlands. I hope to see you there. I'll be there. And yeah, best of luck with semi-finals, and hopefully during the summer before the games we can chat about how you're getting ready to dominate in Madison.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me again. And yeah, apparently, are you gonna be in Amsterdam or will you be
Yeah,
at Strength in Depth?
I'm going to the two of them, to both.
Of course you are. Then I'll most likely see you there then.